everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and I'm here with you in the afternoon because today is a special day. Today was the first day of Seahawks rookie minicamp over at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. And so I thought, why have a show ahead of time when all the exciting stuff is going to be coming this afternoon? So HBAM is HBPM today. I don't think anyone's going to mind because, man, I have some fun stuff to talk about with all of you. This is my first time getting to attend a rookie mini camp, and I'll be honest, man, I'm still buzzing. Like, there's the reporters that have been doing this for a long time, and they're cool, and I'm not cool. I was like giddy because, man, to get to see like this massive group of rookies, both draft picks, undrafted free agents, invites, from all walks of life. I've never seen it. And to get to see them with their first steps onto the VMAC practice field was awesome. And what a day. I mean, just a quintessential Northwest spring, summer kind of day, mid 70s, sun reflecting off of the lake, bald eagles flying everywhere. It was awesome. It was awesome. And the players were great as well. I will have technology willing, I'll have some sound for you. YouTube still processing the video I've got, and I haven't even had a chance to figure out where the clips are. So we'll do a little clumsiness together because we're tight at this point. You guys know me. I know you. And I think what matters is hopefully you'll get to hear from your rookies for the first time on this show. And that is something that is worth waiting for. So we will do that. If you have not already, take a minute, give the show a like, click subscribe. We are, almost to 19,000 subscribers. We are heading towards 20,000. Would love to have you as part of this community. I want to see how big we can make this. Like, why can't it be 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people subscribe to this show and to this channel and all the stuff that's going on here? So would love to add you to that. Love to add you over at patreon.com/hawkblogger, where you can get the ad-free audio version of this show on wherever you want to get your podcasts, as well as access to the Discord channel where the conversation continues throughout the day, not just about the Seahawks, but other sports teams like the Mariners and so forth. So head on over to patreon.com/hawkblogger. All right. So this is going to be scattershot. I've not had a chance to sit here and organize my thoughts. I literally ran back from the VMAC and the press conferences, started cutting up the video, uploading it, getting it uploaded to YouTube. It's still processing on YouTube, getting my kid off the bus and set up for his afternoon. And then I sat down. I didn't want to waste any time prepping because I want to give you my off the cuff impressions. Let's start with the quarterback because Jaylen Milroe is, for better, for worse, whether you love him, whether you're, not a big believer in him, he has the biggest potential to impact this franchise of any draft pick that they made. Of the 11 picks they made, there's no question that a quarterback with his athletic potential, if he were to actually hit, would have the biggest impact of any of these guys. The last time I was able to come to you live with a point of view about Jaylen Milroe was at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, back in like late January, February, whenever that was. And at the Senior Bowl, I told you it was rough. It was super rough. In fact, I thought it was maybe the worst I had seen a quarterback do in a practice setting at that level or above. And this was a guy that was missing wide open players against air with no pass rush, with no one in his face. He was just off target. This was a guy that when they were in team drills was holding onto the ball for 7, 8, 9 seconds getting what would have been sacked, and then still getting rid of the ball late and still being off target. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And that wasn't today. I am not going to say it was a 180 because it wasn't. Jaylen Milroe still, warming up. He's throwing a little bit of a wobbly ball, on some of these routes that they were doing during position drills to start out. He was late still. His timing on out routes, on, in cutting routes, like the ball was there a little late. And, you could see, even though it was, just they're going through in shells. They're not wearing any pads or anything like that. Will Rogers, quarterback from Washington, from the Huskies, was the other quarterback, and his balls were coming in better spiral, on time, with decent accuracy. I thought Will Rogers had a decent day for what it's worth. But Jaylen Milroe was worlds better than he was at the Senior Bowl. Worlds better. And so, I mean, it's very, very, very low bar. But these were a step slow, maybe 2 steps slow, maybe the wrong shoulder accuracy wise. He wasn't throwing balls into the dirt. He wasn't holding onto the ball when they got to team drills. He wasn't holding onto the ball for 10 seconds. He was going through progressions. He was hitting checkdowns. He was hitting seam routes. And it was encouraging. And one of the reasons it was encouraging is because you've got this draft class, 11 draft picks, 9 of which are offensive players. And you could feel that today. Like, you could feel that this was a group that is going to grow together. Doesn't mean they're all going to make the team. It doesn't mean they're all going to be great. But you could just kind of feel it. Like, watching Jaylen Milroe throw passes to Elijah Arroyo, you could imagine that being a connection that's going to be something that happens for years to come. Elijah Arroyo, again, another guy that I was not the highest on. I was never low on Elijah Arroyo, but relative to like Mason Taylor, I was a little higher on him. Arroyo is just such a graceful athlete. He's a smooth mover, and he ended practice with a catch from Milroe where it was like casual. Like, this was not like some, with a guy bearing down on him. I don't want to overstate it, but it was a high throw, and Arroyo just stretched, like full stretch. And he's so long when he is doing that, and jumped. And it was so casual. And what I've noticed over the years is the best athletes make it look easy. They make remarkable look standard. And that play is funny. It's a true story. So again, last play of practice, and that play like happened. I was like, whoa. And Dave Bowling, good friend Dave Bowling, we've been talking about Arroyo and some of the other players throughout practice, which was also really cool. And Dave was really liking what he was seeing from Arroyo. His comp for Arroyo is Kellen Winslow. So Dave is from a different generation than some other folks, but I knew what he meant. And Dave just looks over his shoulder at me, and he's like, I was like, I know, I saw it. It was easy athleticism is the way I'd put it. And you saw that throughout the day from him. Easy strider, easy going up and getting the ball. He's definitely different than the other tight ends that the Seahawks have on the roster. And I'll put this out there way, way too early. It's May 2nd. And it's the first rookie minicamp, and they're not wearing pads, and they haven't, like, a million things haven't happened. I'm not so sure that the tight end room is set. Like, I am not so sure that if someone doesn't come knocking for Noah Fant sometime now, sometime during training camp, that this team won't listen, that they won't answer that call. I think there is a chance, because the idea that you're going to steal snaps from Elijah Arroyo in order to have Noah Fant on the field, even based off the slim things that I saw today, and you can like be totally setting this aside. You can trash me on it in comments. Like, come on, don't overreact. It's all fine. I get it. You can have whatever point of view you want to have. I'm just telling you where I'm at. From the information I got today, watching him, I'm just not sure that makes a lot of sense. I think we're going to find that Elijah Arroyo is going to push for more snaps than I expected him to. The other thing I liked in watching Arroyo today is, as a tight end, that people are like, oh, is he really an X? He was doing tight end drills. He was doing the blocking drills, the combination blocks with the offensive lineman. And I wish this video had processed so I could play this for you. Hopefully it'll process before this show ends. But it's a lot of video, so it might take a little while. So I asked him, like, he said the exact right thing when it came to blocking and as a tight end. He's like, well, he didn't say it's necessarily natural, like it's not his strength. But he said the most important thing, if you want to be a blocker, is wanting to do it. Not just being willing to do it, but wanting to do it. And such a great answer. And I saw that. Like, I was pointing that out to Dave when we were watching. I was like, do you see him? It's all he's got to do. Like, he runs his feet. He engages. He's practicing with the same intensity in his blocking drills as he is when he's getting to run routes. He doesn't have to be even AJ Barner. He doesn't have to be, Zach Miller, or some of the better blocking tight ends that they've had, Will Dissly. And I'm telling you, if they had Colston Loveland instead of Elijah Arroyo, it would be the same story. Like, I don't think the picture was that Colston Loveland would come into Seattle and all of a sudden just, become a ferocious blocker. But he's got to be willing to set those edges and to work at it and to give effort. And I think I see that. And so I was impressed with what I saw from Arroyo today. I liked what I saw from Milroe. Not in the sense at all. Don't get it twisted. This is not like, oh, there's a quarterback competition. It was not that. What I went into the practice with was an expectation, like a question of, are the problems as bad as they looked in Mobile? And can I picture over 2 years, over 3 years, with the right coaching, the right time, the right opportunity to develop, could he figure it out? And after one practice, I was like, okay, this is not a hopeless case. His practice already was better than the training camp practices Sam Howell was doing last year. Again, low bar. But there's something there to work with. There is. And I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to wait. I'll probably play this for you a little bit later, but I talked to Jaylen Milroe. Here we go.
It was a great feeling. I walked on the field. I really just acknowledged where I was at.
Hold on a second if you can while I find the right part of the video. So you guys are probably hearing this right now. So let me scrub around till I can find the right part of this interview. So it's going to be when he's looking at me because I asked him the question. All right. We're going to play this. Let me play this for you guys. I got some clips from Jaylen Milroe and from other guys at the rookie minicamp. All right. Make sure you guys should be able to hear this. Hopefully you are. Here we go.
Studying. So,
Ooh, the sound is
other
terrible.
come with that, but the nature of everything is that.
Any significance to the number choice?
I didn't select the number. I know there's vets on the team. I pay respect to them. They've been here before me, and so when the time comes, I'll select the number. Right now, I ain't gonna check.
All right, so that was him asking about that. He did not select the number.
I think with communication, you're more effective as a group.
So sorry about how bad the sound is, guys. Hopefully you can hear a little bit of this. Let me see if I can find the other one of him. I asked him about VR and training on that, like Jaden Daniels does. Like thrown to Elijah Arroyo today.
Big target. I threw some nice balls today, and he wanted to go get that ball. I was happy. But he's a dude. You know, it's fun. It's so funny. You know how this process is. You know, we all don't know what was wrong during the process, but me and him went on a couple of visits together. We communicated. You know, we just talked about how great it would be for your teammates. And I remember getting a text from him saying, "Man, we're gonna be teammates." So it's definitely exciting. And now to get back in the field with him.
All right. Sounds like you guys aren't able to hear any of that. So, all right, forget that. That's too bad. Too bad because I waited like 45 minutes to get all that translated up there and it didn't really work. That's too bad. Well, so I asked about Elijah Arroyo. He said, loved it. Big target. So that was one part of it. I asked him about the number 6. He said that he didn't pick it. There's other vets like Sam Darnold's 4, which is I think what Milroe was in college. So he didn't pick it. He'll wait his turn is essentially what he said. I then asked him about the VR tech that Jaden Daniels kind of made famous last year, saying that Jaden Daniels does it at like 1.75 speed. And it helps him get reps and helps him work on diagnosing defenses, reading defenses, as well as like timing and all those kinds of things. And so I asked him if he is doing anything similar. And he said, it's really funny you asked that because my new coaches just told me they want me to work on that. And so that is something that Jaylen Milroe, I think I was the first to share that news. And now it's getting... all the aggregators are stealing it, but it's going else. Everyone else is sharing it and probably will get a bunch of engagement, but whatever. It is news. And the thing I really care about is that he's doing it. And I think it has a chance to be helpful for him in particular, because there's a few people that are, one person in particular who's a fan of this show, who's been obsessed with the VR stuff and wanted me to ask about it for many months. And I'm not exactly sure what the intense interest is in it, but when I thought about this particular quarterback and his particular challenges, it really feels like the VR stuff could be a great way for him to not only get additional reps, because as a backup or even a third string guy, you just might not get the same amount of reps as others, but this is a way to get reps throughout the day, but also to work on some of his challenges and to work on identifying defenses, being able to pick out progressions, where to go first, and working on timing, working on a 3-step drop, looking this way, looking that way, understanding what the safety's doing, what the linebacker's doing, what the coverage is doing, and being able to be in an anticipatory mode as opposed to a reactive mode. I think it could be really helpful for him. I hope it will be really helpful for him. The other thing I asked him, since now I won't be able to play any of that sound, dang it, is, I told him the last time I saw him was at Mobile and at the Senior Bowl, and that it's been a long time since then. And I was wondering if he was in a transitional period at that time with what he was working on from a throwing motion standpoint and his mechanics with Jordan Palmer, the quarterback coach. And he said he was. And he went on to talk about things like, how much throwing is from the ground and your legs, and he went on to talk about it a little bit more, and we'll have that clip on another show for you. But he acknowledged that that was a period where they were working on things. So that at least is an explanation for part of why it was such a rough week. Because if anyone, I don't know, if you're not a golfer, this won't mean anything to you. If you are a golfer, try going out on the course after you've had a golf lesson and you're working on the thing that your instructor told you to do. There is so much in the mechanics of a golf swing, and it's not that much different than the mechanics of a throw from a quarterback. If you're loading differently, if you're using your weight differently, the ground differently, your rotation, your grip, like there's a million things that you can be changing. And to actually get that repetition to the point where it feels natural, it takes time. So I think we're all we'd all be wise to at least hope that this is just part of the progression for Jaylen Milroe. And the overall impression from his press conference was, yeah, I heard people kind of like talking to each other, walking away, was like, that's personality. Like that's a leader. That's a different kind of energy than some of the other guys we've had, come through here in that regard. And Michael Robinson, Mike Robb from the Real Rob Report back in the day, and now the Get Got Pod was there and listening. And yeah, I think Jaylen Milroe had a really, really impressive start to his Seahawks career. Engaging guy, humble guy, hard worker. And we'll just kind of see what tomorrow brings and the day after that. Because one of the other things I asked him was, you were an academic Heisman. That's a lot of additional work. If you heard my Robbie Oots interview, Robbie Oots isn't convinced that Jaylen Milroe sleeps. But I said, so what are you going to do with that extra time? How are you going to use it? And he's like, my body. I'm just going to work on my body. And, I'm a professional now, and that's something I've got to do in order to be available and reliable for my teammates. So when you've got a guy that's used to spending that many hours a day working, I think that's a pretty good. He does not strike me as the type of guy that's going to come into the league and then all of a sudden just be partying and going crazy. It doesn't mean he's not going to have a fun time, and he should, but he's here to be a professional athlete. And I think that's really clear. And you could feel that in his answers. So really nice day from Jaylen Milroe overall. I'll just repeat. I thought Will Rogers had a nice day as well. There was one interception. Returned for a touchdown. I think it was off of a Will Rogers. It was a ball he threw to Damian Martinez, the running back, the 7th round pick. And it kind of hit his hand as he was turning around, and it popped into the air. And Mr. Woodard, if you're wondering, let me make sure I've got the right. Did I not make note of this? Oh, yes. So it was Jackson Woodard, the linebacker from UNLV, was right there as the ball tipped into the air. Right place, right time, snagged it out of the air and returned it for a touchdown. And his defensive teammates just erupted. I mean, they all ran down the field congratulating him. They were hyped. So good moment for Jackson Woodard, who comes to this camp with a reputation as a really good coverage backer. And there you go. So I'm 90% sure that was a Will Rogers interception, not a Jaylen Milroe interception. So that was the one that I saw. It's possible I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Will Rogers. The other thing that was kind of fun to watch today, there's so much. So Nicky Manwari, watching him in his first time on the field, he's just long. Like, I think that's one of the things, seeing him in uniform and seeing him out there, guys when they're wearing their helmets, and there's guys that have short necks, wide necks, long necks, like you kind of like, you see it's a little bit of their body type. And he's a longer guy. Like, there's distance between the bottom of his helmet and his shoulders. You might be like, why you pay attention to that? Like, I just noticed things about kind of how guys are built, and I think it goes into how they're going to be able to hit, move, avoid injury or be injured. Like, that's just my own kind of belief, whether or not it's real or not. That's just kind of how I look at guys when I see them the first time. But that was one of the impressions, is just he's longer than I would have expected. And one of the things that was really cool, really little thing, but that's what you're there to watch. He was working exclusively at nickel from what I saw. And I'll give you two little things that were really, really cool. One was, I saw him on one play. He's lined up over it was either the tight end or the slot receiver. I can't remember. It doesn't really matter for the point of the story. He initially starts into his zone drop. So he's not man to man. He's backpedaling into a zone. He's reading the quarterback. He first squeezes the inside receiver, who is a check down. So he takes away that option from the quarterback. And then the quarterback progresses to swing the ball out to the running back, or whatever the outlet receiver was, in the flat. And Eamon sees this as it's happening, even before it's happening. He plants his back foot, hips flip from covering the inside guy to driving on covering the outside, the flat. And just the natural, like, the fluidity of how he was able to move in that regard, and the explosion from what the ground he could make up from when he decided to plant his foot and actually drive on the flat receiver. Those are the things you can't teach. Like, if you're a head coach or you're a defensive coach, that's something you get excited about, because you can tell the guy to be in all these places, but there's some guys that, all they can do is, squeeze the inside receiver, and they're not going to realistically be able to make up the ground to get to the flat. Even Worry can't. And so it was just watching how fluid his hips were, how he could move. Like, he moves like a corner. And like, I know, like, I've asked him about Cam Chancellor, his old coach, compared. He's not, I don't think that's the right comparison. I don't think he's that kind of physical. Like, he's capable potentially of that, but I don't think that's the way he's built. And I don't think that's the way he's going to play. Doesn't mean he's not going to have big hits. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be a physical player. But I think the Kyle Hamilton stuff is actually a better comp. The Derwin James stuff might be a better comp, or a better, like, thing to think about, because of just how much I think coverage is going to be a strength of his game, and just how much ground he can cover. So that was one piece of the Nick Eamon experience. The other was, you could just see Mike Macdonald was excited. Like, he was excited. And there's a part in practice where Macdonald went to stand next to Eamon on the field during reps. So this wasn't team drills. This was just like the defense working on things. And Macdonald, the first thing he did was like motion Eamon to come closer. Like, he wanted him, like, his alignment was not where he wanted him to be. So he's working with him like, okay, you should be right here. And then working with him on at the snap, okay, this guy's going here. This means your response. Here's your keys. Here's, like, this is the part of where you should now be driving on this. And it was just cool to watch Mike Macdonald in day one, practice one, putting in the time. He's a head coach. yes, he's the defensive-minded head coach, and yes, he calls the plays, but he's in there working with that individual player who I think he knows has the potential to be a massively valuable part of the way this team succeeds. And those kinds of details, I think, are going to be the difference between Nicky Manwari being the player that some thought was overly drafted and the player that folks like myself and the Seahawks think was underdrafted. And we'll find out. But Mike Macdonald was right there. And it wasn't just Mike Macdonald. It was cool to see Leslie Frazier on the sideline, and he was actually spending a decent amount of time with Isis Waxter, number 36, who's a cornerback out of Villanova. He's 6'1", 205 pounds. So he's another long, like lanky corner. They've got a type. And Leslie Frazier was talking to Waxter. It's Waxter, Waxter, on the sideline. And like pretty animated, talking about like, I couldn't hear because the music was too loud what they were going at. And then Waxter goes out on the field, and on the pick 6 from Woodard, like everyone's celebrating, everyone finally calms down. Waxter comes back to the sideline, and Frazier's like, I saw you try it. You did it. Like, good job. I don't know what it was, but he did it. And I just think that this is part of the vision for what this team is. Like, we were excited last year about the idea that you were going to have not just Mike Macdonald, but also Adam Dirty, who is an excellent defensive line coach, as your defensive coordinator. And you're going to have Leslie Frazier just wandering around as one of the best secondary coaches who's ever lived and has been a defensive coordinator, like just picking guys and helping them along. So that was cool to see. I saw Zai Alexander. I know people are probably curious about him, the LSU cornerback. I saw him on the field. I didn't watch really any reps, so I don't have any Zai Alexander stuff to tell. There was one guy that did kind of catch my eye. Doesn't mean that he's going to be great, but number 27 was KJ Wallace, cornerback out of UCLA, 5'10", 186 pounds. There's a lot of fluidity to how he moved. He had really nice ball skills. There's a couple plays that he caught my attention. Doesn't mean anything other than like that was just a notable guy for me. If you're curious about Torrey Horton, the receiver, he was not practicing today. I think they're just, he's continuing to rehab from his, if you hear anyone say ACL, Torrey Horton did not have an ACL injury. Torrey Horton had an LCL and a hamstring injury. So different injury, different ligament. And so different, time frame for him to actually recover from as well. I'm going to jump around. I will get to the offensive line in a second because I want to spend some time there. But I will tell you about some other guys that caught my attention just throughout practice. And then I'll get to the offensive line. So, Robbie Oots looks the part. He looks the part. And this is another thing that I'm curious, like, if Elijah Arroyo looks like he should be getting snaps, and if they get a good offer for Noah Fant, I think Brady Russell's too good to cut. I really do. I know people think I'm crazy. I think Brady Russell's a really good player. He's a great special teams player. He's a great part of the locker room. I think he's got more in him as a tight end than he was able to show last year, and I think this offense could highlight that. They could move Brady Russell back to tight end if they trade Noah Fant, and Brady Russell will be your third tight end. So there's a lot of things that to me, I'm still like, watch that. But another guy, speaking of tight ends, had a nice day. And I have never heard of this guy before. I'm just being honest with you. His name is Bryzai, Bryzai White. He's number 47, Bryzai White. He's a tight end, 6'2", 247 pounds. He's 21 years old. He played for Northern Arizona. he had like 3 or 4 or 5 catches today. Looked really natural doing it. He's a shorter guy, 6'2". Elijah Arroyo is obviously 6'5", so he's just lankier than this guy. But Brizai White had a nice day, and at least got my attention. There was one nice throw I saw from Jaylen Milroe. Where Milroe really stands out is seam routes and 9 routes, like deep balls along the sideline. Those are where he's in his comfort zone. And he had a really nice kind of layered throw to Brizai White. I hope I'm not butchering his name, down the seam. And I one of the things I really look for when I'm watching quarterbacks is can they layer throws? Can they throw it over a defender and under another defender? Because you got to be able to do that in the NFL. And there's a really tough throws potentially to do. And I hadn't seen Milroe do that as much, but I saw him do it today, which was cool. Doesn't mean that he's great at it. I don't know that he is, but if you can do it once, you can do it again. He also had another nice completion to White where, again, I saw him going through his progressions and then making the on-time throw to White. Those are little things I look for, is like what he was doing in Mobile is he'd go through his progressions and then he'd go back through his progressions and just keep doing it. And then eventually just throw it to a covered guy. Like, it was, I don't know, like it was bad. It was bad. So like he just looked more like a functional quarterback today, which was it was nice to see. Number 33. Yes. Tyrone Broden, the formerly 6'7", but officially 6'5" wide receiver from Arkansas. Yes, he is 6'5", not 6'7", 194 pounds. His issue in college was drops, and I saw him working today on the jugs machine, as the other receivers were as well. And he had like a nice day. He didn't do anything spectacular, but the thing that stood out to me on one play with his 6'5" frame, there was a slant route where he flattened out, meaning like he got his full body turned to the quarterback, and he stretched for the ball and really like put his body between himself and the defender, so that he was just this huge target when he did that. It was like a sail for a sailboat. I mean, he's just like a big, long target, and stretched like outside his frame over his head to make the catch, and did it nicely. Now, granted, they're not wearing pads. There's no contact, so he's not really having to worry about getting crunched. But that was a nice catch, and definitely at least got my attention. There was at least one nice rush around the edge from Jared Ivey that I noticed. I can't say I was watching pass rush a ton during team drills, but I did watch Jared Ivey for a couple, and there was one nice, decent rush around the edge. I'm always really, there's some things you can tell with pass rush and pass protection in non-padded practices, but I'm really hesitant to put too much into an unpadded practice when it comes to that kind of stuff. By the way, like John Rice Plumlee, as well as Jamie Sheriff, even though they're not rookies, were participating. So they were there. I did not notice Jamie Sheriff. Like, I wasn't watching for him, so I can't tell you how he did. There was one part, it was cool toward the end, where Arroyo and Imanwari were matched up, and it just got me to thinking about the old LOB days and the iron sharpening iron that went on every day in practice there, where you had Doug Baldwin going against Richard Sherman or Walter Thurmond or whoever else, and to have those two high-level athletes working against each other was cool to see. Like the beginning of that story was cool. All right. So before I get to offensive line, make sure you give the show a like, click subscribe. Would appreciate it. Where are we at? We need 150 more subscribers to get to 19,000. So if you can do that on YouTube, I'd appreciate it. If you can give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we are up to 4.6 stars. You guys have been doing it. I really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate some of the nice words you've been putting in your reviews as well. So if we can get up to 4.8, 4.9, it would be awesome. We just need like another 50, 100 people to give a 5-star review. That would really help. And on Spotify as well. Anywhere that you get your podcasts, you can get this show. All right. So the offense, one of the things that someone wants me to know who won the rep between Nick and Elijah. It was a draw. They were not part of that play, and this was a point in the practice where they weren't even wearing helmets. So I wouldn't put much into these reps. I am going to tell you about offensive line. I think it's also important to understand about the offense. This is the first look at Clint Kubiak, Andrew Janocko, the quarterback coach, that whole offensive line and coaching staff and what they're running. A lot of under center, a lot of I formation. Oh my God. It was so nice to see I formation. Robbie Oots in there at fullback, Damian Martinez behind him, Jaylen Milroe under center. Like, that could be a thing. And who knows? Maybe eventually, it'll be Gray Zabel snapping him the ball. I don't know. The whole middle of the spine of the offense could all be from this draft class. But play action on pretty much every single play. Jaylen Milroe, there was a play where, it's play action, and then he is throwing out to, like, he's dropping back, straight back, and then it's out to his left. Very next play, stretch play to the left, like wide zone to Damian Martinez, hands it off. Play after that, fakes the stretch, bootleg the other direction, Jaylen Milroe, like, running to the edge and completing it along the sideline. I don't know if I remember which receiver it was. 83. I've got in my notes. 83 was Montana Lamonius Craig. Montana Lamonius Craig. I wish I knew that was his name before. 6'1", 189 pounds, 22 years old, from University of Arizona. So there was just seeing the offense installed. It already looks more physical. It already looks more reliable than what the Seahawks were running last year. So that was really cool. And to see Andrew Janocko out there, who, keep in mind, he was at the combine on the field with the quarterbacks, working with them. And like, this is like, Jaylen Milroe is going to be his project. Like, he is going to spend a lot of time working with Jaylen Milroe. So cool to see the coaching staff kind of get their hands on him. And then let's talk about it. Let's talk about the offensive line, because that's the elephant or elephants in the room, I guess. I'm not allowed to tell you who is first string. I'm not allowed to tell you who is second string. I'm not allowed to tell you. I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell you which positions they lined up as. So I'm going to not do that, because I don't need to get in trouble for sharing too much. I will name 5 guys that I paid the most attention to and were often working in conjunction. So Amari Kite, Kight, despite what I was told on my show yesterday that it was Knight, it is Kite, Kight, played 4 years at Alabama, played 2 years at Central Florida, and he just looks the part. 6'6", 300 pounds, nice athlete. He's a little bit slight, a little bit narrower below the hip, but he was an interesting guy, just an interesting guy to watch move. Gray Zabel. it's going to be really hard not to get too excited about Gray Zabel. I'm going to struggle to keep my expectations. Like, you have to help me remember, because I've reminded you, I've told you, rookie offensive linemen rarely come into the league and play well. Like, they can be good, but they're usually not very good. Like Dominic Pooney last year is an example of a rookie that played well above what's a normal rookie performance. I think Gray Zabel could be one of those guys. Like, I'm sitting there sitting next to Dave Bowling, who, by the way, played offensive line. I used to read all of his old write-ups about the Seahawks training camps in Cheney, because he would talk about the lines, and he was a really good evaluator of linemen. And we're watching guys go one after the other through these just position drills. This isn't team drills or anything like that. And there's one where, one of the offensive linemen is holding up a blocking pad, and then the guy that's taking the rep is in his stance, and he's going to go block the guy. And I'm watching one guy after the other do it. You kind of see them come out of their stance, fire out of their stance, hit the pad, push the guy back a little bit. They do their little dance, and then they reset. Gray Zabel gets up there, and he just moves guys differently. Like, the guy who was holding the pad moved back at a pace and at a distance that was much different than the other guys that were going through this drill. It was just so nice to see. Like, it was so nice to see him stand out, and he did stand out in the way he moved, in his easy power. There were more than a handful of times before practice, after practice, during practice, that offensive line coach John Benton was one-on-one kind of talking with his new pupil, Gray Zabel, and you could just see the camaraderie there and the teacher-student relationship there. And one of the things that's really cool with Gray is you have no questions about how coachable he is. You have no question about how hard he's going to work. And then you've also got him as a 99th percentile athlete at the guard position. There's just a lot of promise. There's a lot of promise there. And got me pretty excited, I'll admit. I'll tell you another thing that got me excited about Gray Zabel had nothing to do with the way he was playing. Sure enough, before practice, when they're doing stretching and just getting going, Gray Zabel's holding court with a couple of the other offensive linemen. I think it was Mason Richmond, maybe Bryce Cabledew. And they're just hanging out. You could see them smiling. I've got some pictures I'll share, probably on Twitter or something like that. But it was cool. It was just cool to see. If you remember the 2012 squad, the draft class, not the squad, the draft class, there was a lot of camaraderie in that class. Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, Bruce Irvin. There are a number of guys in that class that took it personally that they got such a poor draft grade. Everyone thought it was an F draft or a D draft or whatever, right? But there was also just this tie that bound that group together, and that lasted not just that season, but throughout their careers together. And I can kind of see the stitches of this draft class, where you can just see the personalities that mesh together from similar backgrounds. You can see the fact that a lot of them are going to play on the same side of the ball. The fact that this team is kind of, I wouldn't say it's a blank slate, but there is definitely space to make an imprint and to kind of affect the culture and the personality here. I think this class is going to be the one that defines it. It's my instinct. This could be hilariously off, a few months from now or a few years from now, but that's just what I see. has the potential there. So loved what I saw from Zabel. Another one, Federico Maranges, hopefully I'm saying that right, center out of Florida Atlantic, 6'3", 302 pounds. Bob Condotta said to me today, because we were trying to figure out the roster math, they signed 17 undrafted free agents, and they don't have a roster spot after Jonathan Hankins also signed. So we're trying to figure that out. And I think Federico Maranges might qualify as an international signing, which would mean that he could be the 91st man on the roster. I didn't have much of an impression of him as a center. He was playing center and whatever. I didn't notice much one way or another about him, but that was at least something. Bryce Cabledew, big number 77. Looks good. I mean, he's getting Mason Richmond talked to us at the end of practice, and he was kind of joking about the fact that, Mason, they've all Gray Zabel and Bryce Cabledew all are used to left tackle. Zabel's playing at left guard. The other two are on the right side. Cabledew's playing right. Sorry, I guess I can't say that. I don't know. Anyway, he's on the right side, and Richmond just kind of talked about the fact that there's at least one play. He said this in the press conference that he could tell that Cabledew was his footwork. He was like thinking he was back at left tackle, and it's just going to take some time to get used to that. So, but I'll tell you what, Dave Bowling was pretty bullish on Mason Richmond and really liked the way he moved. And yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's obviously very early yet, but we'll see. It was cool to watch the linemen work together. But I'll tell you the coolest part. The coolest part was Gray Zabel. I'm not going to lie. The coolest part was Gray Zabel, but a very close second, watching John Benton work. And I'll upload some video. Well, I wonder if I can do this. Maybe this will work. And you're not going to be able to hear much, but let me see if I can get this uploaded from my phone, and I'll show this to you guys. Hold on a second, because I think I can. Yeah, there's a few things I'll share over here. Okay, let me pick a couple others. Boop, boop, boop. You guys just hold on one second. I know. It was fun also to see Thor Griffith, if you're wondering. I enjoyed watching him. He's a big guy. He is a big guy, thick guy, strong guy. All right, where is it? Is this the one? This is the one. That's the one. All right, let me get this airdropped, and then I will share it in a different window here. I'm so bummed about the press conference stuff not working. So this will just be a second. But anyway, what I'm going to show you is John Benton working with the offensive linemen, and he's working on them like as they get set, their spacing, like the splits between the offensive line, how like down to the specifics of how far apart they should be from one another. And then he's working with them on their footwork and where they should be, what landmark they should be at what specific period of time. And like the care with which he was doing that was really cool. Is this going to, darn it. 1 second. I have to convert it from QuickTime. I don't know why that's the case. But it's being annoying. You guys, it'll be worth it. You guys will be happy I did this. So let me just pull it open. Okay. Anyway, the detail with which he was working with these guys was just really cool. And I think just knowing that he's done this for so many years and that he's getting this chance to work with these guys from the very beginning is awesome. So let me save it as Is this gonna work? Sorry, guys. Say export as. Hopefully this works. No, it's exporting it as another MOV file. All right. Well, too bad. I'll try to find a quick converter online. To MP4 converter. I know this is really fun to watch and listen to as I'm kind of fumbling through this, but I really think you guys will like to see it. You won't get to see this anywhere else. So I try to do these little things for you guys. All right. It's just going to be a second. It's going to convert and then I will be able to share it finally. And it's not going to be that exciting after all this. It will not live up to the billing, but at least it will have worked. I'll also convert this little clip of Gray Zabel hanging out with the guys ahead of practice. So you can see that. And I was just struck by watching John Benton, like the detail. He worked a lot with Mason Richmond. There's a lot going on there that was cool to see. And okay, this should now finally work. There's one. Okay, so let me put this up there for you so you guys can see it. This is pre-practice, just the dudes hanging out. You can see Gray Zabel there. And I think on the right side there is Merenges, if I'm pronouncing that at all correct. And then the other one, this is minutes of him working with John, Mr. Offensive Line Coach. And you can see he's working specifically like little things. Like see how he's see how his feet. He's tracing. He's measuring by footsteps how far apart these guys should be. Like see that? Okay, nope. You need to be farther out, Mason Richmond. Like the level of specificity. I say every offensive line coach does this. Like I watched last year. I'm not saying that they weren't working on details because they were. Ray Roberts talked to us about details, but like there's a history here where John Benton has done this for so many decades. He knows exactly what he wants to see and can communicate that very clearly. And so that was one little clip. Hopefully you guys found that even a little bit worth all that extra time it took me to get there. But I thought that stood out watching him work with those guys. What else? I'm looking through my notes just to see. Oh, it was nice to see Jake Peets, by the way. Jake Peets out there. He was like very active and working with the quarterbacks, working on the passing game, working on the timing. He was like really drilling them on balls got to be out right now. These were on some of the out routes that they were doing early on. That was cool. Ricky White had one nice juggling catch. Wasn't generally like I wouldn't say he had a big day or anything like that. As I mentioned before, Torrey Horton did not play, still, recovering and rehabbing. I'm looking through, see if there's anyone else that I didn't mention that I should have. Okay, I think those are all my notes. I think there's super chats waiting, so let me see what the super chats are. Hawks fan Matt Man says MacGyver or MacGruber. And for those that don't know, that is what I've dubbed this offseason for the Seahawks and for John Schneider. This was either going to be an offseason where, navigating Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, the cap situation, the draft, the transition to Mike McDonald, like all this stuff. It was either going to be a MacGyver where you defused a bomb or a MacGruber where you set it off and blow up the whole damn building. And right now, it definitely looks like a MacGyver offseason. That's what it's looking like. But there's a long way to go. But that's what it's looking like right now. Good question, Matt. Kendrick Lamar. Wow. Shocked that Kendrick Lamar is a member for 6 months. Kupa Ziolana, cheers from Poland. Go Hawks. Well, that's very cool. Thank you for the super chat, and thanks for being a member for 6 months. Months, as the word is actually pronounced. Will Fries, it's shocking how much the new Vikings offensive lineman has become a fan of this show. With a super chat, says, what was the vibe? We've talked about how last year's roster was a bit subdued. Do the rookies have more bravado and personality? There's no doubt. I mean, the charisma very much different than previous classes and previous folks that are on the roster. Doesn't mean that there's nobody with charisma that was already on the roster, but I mean, I was joking with guys, the PR staff and other places, like, you guys didn't just draft talent, you drafted personality and charisma. And they're like, yep, very quotable. So, yeah, I think the vibe was energetic. It was nice from my perspective that the music was turned down for a lot of practice, so I could actually hear what the coaches were coaching and, some of the communication. But yeah, it was, I think people are all energized and having a good time. Sebastian Rizvi, who's been a member for 7 months, says, great work. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate you, dude. Arfman23 says, question I've always been curious about. How do you take traits film production from college and translate that to which grade a prospect gets? Well, I'm not a professional scout, so I wouldn't be the best person to answer that. I would just tell you that personally, when I'm looking at these guys, I've talked about it when I've done some of my draft recap shows. I'm looking at athleticism is what sets your ceiling from my perspective. The more athletic, the more things you can do that nobody else can do physically, the higher your potential is. That is not the only thing that matters. In a lot of cases, there's tons of examples of amazing athletes that are terrible at football. So it's not the only thing. You then have to see, like, okay, well, were they able to translate that into college production? Were they a good player? Did they affect football games against other good football players? And so that's where the level of competition matters. And do they do things that win football games? And so, like, Nicky Manwari is a great example. Nicky Manwari, Shamar Stewart are like a good foil for each other. Nicky Manwari had 4 picks, was a first-team All-American, was a good player, had production. Shamar Stewart, also an elite athlete, he had 1.5 sacks his senior year. He did not have many sacks his whole career. I happen to think that he still affected the quarterback, but he was not nearly as productive. And so that becomes a question. For some people, then it matters like what position you're playing as well. Shamar Stewart went ahead of Nicky Manwari because edge rushers, if you can find an elite edge rusher, it's just more useful and more valuable than an elite safety. So there's lots of things. There's too many things to answer in this short amount of time, but there is no one answer to this question. It is part of the art of being in the front office of an NFL team, and 2 teams could see the exact same player with exact same traits, the exact same film, the exact same statistics, wildly differently. And where they draft them would be wildly different because it also has to do with what scheme you're running, how the fit is, whether you need that position. There's so much. It's one of the things I love about it. It's like endlessly complicated, which makes it kind of fun. Brian Cole says, love your camp coverage. Thank you. Well, happy to do it. I'm glad you love it because I certainly love doing it. Seth Keoloha. Hopefully I got that anywhere close to correct, but thank you, Seth. Says, any good nose tackle prospects that stood out to you? It's a good question. So that was a group that I watched go through some drills, but I didn't really, I just honestly, I don't buy nose tackle evaluations without pads on. Like, I don't know how they're going to do that. I mean, maybe they're just going to look at how they move. But I have some video of Thor Griffith I could share with you at some point if you're curious. And then last super chat here, Brian Cole said, how many UDFA and invitees were there today? Well, I mean, I'm looking at this list of players. I don't know how many players are on this list. Let's see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 72. 72 guys out there today that were either draft picks, undrafted free agents, or camp invites. So that includes like Michael Love, Jaylen Love's. Oh my gosh. I'm like getting Julian Love's. Oh my God. Jaylen Milroe, Julian Love. I'm gonna get things confused. Anyway, Julian Love's brother, Michael Love, was out there. Billy Joe Hobart's kid was out there. Those guys are camp invites. They're not, undrafted free agents, or they're not signed free agents or anything like that. So lots of different names. I can tell you, I'm looking at the roster here. D'Amico Rowland, who was a nose tackle from Southern Mississippi, we're kind of curious about. They had been listed in like the 340s. He weighed at 312. Brandon Brown is another nose tackle that was in there, 6'1", 313. He's from Texas, San Antonio. Who else is listed as nose tackle? J.R. Singleton, 6'1", 299 from Iowa State. Wakevius Bubba Thomas, 6'1", 301 from South Alabama. We talked about him a little bit before. Where is Mr. Griffith? Thor. Yes, 95. 6'2", 305 out of Louisville. It's interesting because he was listed at 320. He shows up at 305 here. So the biggest nose tackle here was D'Amico Rowland, who's 312. Gray Zabel weighed 316. So Zabel is bigger than any of the nose tackles. Gray Zabel's going to be so good. I think he's going to be so good. I'm so excited about it. So let me see. Anything else before I got some more super chats coming in here late. All right. Dogzilla Monster, who is sporting the best stash? Well, I asked Gray Zabel yesterday about that, and he did mention that he respects Robbie Oots' stash. They're all looking pretty good. I thought Brady Henderson was rocking a pretty good stash today. I almost took a picture and posted it, but I didn't want to put him on blast. But Brady Henderson's always styling, and he pulls it off. So he was joining the stash brigade. Go Hawks says, any opinion on Torrey Horton after the minicamp? Well, he did do a press conference, and a couple things about Torrey Horton. So one, he did practice today because he's still recovering from his injury, rehabbing. He did catch passes from the jugs machine. So there's that. And then I think what I'll do is maybe I'll put all this video up on my YouTube channel and just make it available for people to watch it if they're interested. So one of the things I asked him was, everyone's talking about you as like the best pick of the draft, like the steal of the draft. Do you like that, or do you feel a little annoyed that you were picked later than you should have been? And he's like, I'm definitely using it as motivation. I mean, he's a nice, quiet, kind of, friendly kid. So he wasn't like showing a lot of fire, but it was kind of interesting to hear. He also talked about the fact that Seattle's, like he said, gave credit to the Lord or whatever he said about he was meant to be here, and this is one of the places he really wanted to be. And I think that's one of the other defining characteristics, not just this class, but last class. Remember that Byron Murphy grew up a Seahawks fan. Gray Zabel, huge Steve Hutchinson guy, so happy to be here, wanted to be here. Torrey Horton, wanted this to be the place that called him. Nicky Minwari wanted to play here, was worried that he wasn't going to end up here after he didn't get there in the first round, and the Seahawks were picking so late in the second. A lot of these guys really want to be here, and I can rock with that. Like, I think that's just it brings so much of a different energy when you got that many guys that are excited to be here, and you don't have people that don't want to be here affecting that vibe. I think that's pretty cool. The other thing I'd asked Torrey Horton about was if you saw my time with Ryan Fowler, I was like, I know this is a crazy comp. I know that it's like too heady. And it's not just because they share the same first name, but Torrey Holt and Torrey Horton kind of remind me of each other. Like they're similar style receivers, same height, similar weight, similar speed, similar leaping ability, like just similar athletes and similar style of receivers. So I took the plunge. I said, Torrey, has anyone ever told you that your game resembles another Torrey that used to play the receiver position, Torrey Holt? Or are there any other guys that you think are better comps to your game? And he's like, actually, a lot of people talk to me about Torrey Holt, and he's obviously a great receiver. And so I felt a little validation that I'm not the only one that has made that connection. But again, not saying that he's about to be a Hall of Fame level receiver like Torrey Holt was, but I think he can be a very productive receiver that is of that type. Can beat you down the field, can beat you on route running, can beat you after the catch. I think that's who Torrey Horton is. Mark Mitchell says, please download the 26 toaster on Madden, WTH Jaylen Milroe, and tell me you can get the Southerner. I have no idea. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm missing something in translation there, my friend. Maybe it's because I haven't played Madden in a very long time, but I appreciate the super chat and the enthusiasm. So, all right, folks, with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. That is my day one rookie minicamp report. I will be back tomorrow morning, probably tomorrow's my wife's birthday. So I may be out doing some things to celebrate her in the morning, and then maybe I'll come back in the afternoon with my second rookie minicamp report after I go there. So be patient. The best way to make sure you are here for all the coverage is to click subscribe, click the bell to get notified when I go live. And the great news is now, I think I've fixed it. You shouldn't be getting multiple notifications for multiple versions of this show. The audio version should not show up on the video channel. It should show up in YouTube Music and Apple Podcasts and anywhere else where you get your podcasts. Hopefully that's working so you can safely subscribe and click the bell, and you'll only get notified when I'm truly going live and have added new content. So hopefully that's great. I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave this show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever. Would also love to add you to patreon.com/hawkblogger, as well as the YouTube membership would be great. If you can be club level or higher, or you go to patreon.com/hawkblogger, get access to the Discord channel where the community is growing. And our only rule is, be friendly and keep it about sports. Like that's what our rules are. And otherwise we're pretty patient with people. If you have not gone to jkboots.com and used code HawkBlogger, you should. Best boots you will ever own. I love my JK boots. Like, I wish I could wear them all the time. They're very heavy duty. They look great with jeans. They're a Spokane-based company. If you use code HawkBlogger, you get $75 off. $75. That's a great deal. I don't know how long it's going to last. Not only do you get $75 off, but every time you use code HawkBlogger, they give $15 to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation, which helps keep Northwest Forest firefighters safe and equipped, and then keeps the Northwest looking amazing and protected from forest fires. So really great deal all around. Use code HawkBlogger. You won't regret it. And let me know what you think of your JK boots, because I haven't heard anybody that doesn't just love their JK boots. Okay, folks, that'll do it. Take a wonderful Friday evening to enjoy and reflect on this. I'll be back with you tomorrow with more about the Seahawks. Till then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of